And now another episode of Donny Boast Friday Football Flash with your host, Donny Boast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Week 10 in the NFL. Yes, sirree, folks. This is now the time when things actually get a little bit interesting. Thanksgiving is around the corner, and now we will separate the men from the boys in the NFL. The pack is clearing, the herd is spreading, and we will really see who is true and champion-esque in the next coming weeks here. We will now review the week that was, then the week that is. I don't even know if you can consider it anything. The Baltimore Ravens won. It was the lock of the decade. Anything against the Cleveland Browns or the Santa Clara Yorks this year is a lock of the decade. Yes, sirree, folks. Week 10 opened up with another Thursday night laugh for the Cleveland Browns at Baltimore, losing 7-28. Quite the margin. Looking back, Atlanta went into Tampa. Atlanta is poised now to make a run. They've got everything firing on all cylinders. And let's see how it goes from here. Speaking about another team firing on all cylinders, you wonder what will happen if Atlanta and Dallas meet in the playoffs. Dallas went into Cleveland and destroyed them. Jacksonville Jaguars, they're not good. Lost in Kansas City, not surprising. The New York Football Jets went into Miami and lost. The Miami Dolphins are slowly but surely getting some things together. They might be poised for a run here, but it won't last long if there is one. The Detroit Lions went into Minnesota, who is now hobbled in all sorts of holes, all sorts of troubles there in Minnesota that are coming to the surface. They are not who we thought they could be. Detroit wins in overtime. Philadelphia, now in kind of a no man's land, went into New York and lost to the Giants 23-28. The Giants, of course, every once in a while will surprise you, but it was a very interesting game. They actually had some things put together. We'll see where it goes from here for them. The Pittsburgh Steelers are also reeling. Big Ben is not who he used to be. They went into Baltimore, and it was an old-school bruising battle between the two teams. Baltimore thumped them and thumped them hard. The score might not reflect it, but they won in very dominating fashion, 21-14. Carolina went into the Los Angeles Rams and won in a very ugly game where the fans finally started rallying for Jared Goff. Of course, he won't play this season because Jeff Fisher is an anal retentive man. The New Orleans Saints went into the Santa Clara Yorks, the other lock of the week. They destroyed the Santa Clara Yorks, 41-23. The score isn't even indicative of how much of a gap of a game this was. The Yorks didn't have anything going in this game, nor would we expected them to. New Orleans Saints, it was a good moral victory for them. They had to show up big against a very, very crappy franchise. The Indianapolis Dolts went into Green Bay and shocked them. Green Bay not doing much now without the running game. Everything's on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, and they seem to be a little unraveled. The depth isn't there. They can't seem to put the pieces in order, and they're in trouble out there in Green Bay. That division is ultimately up for grabs now at this point. Neither team in any of the divisions up there in the NFC North is any good. We'll see how it pans out. They might squeak into the playoffs, Green Bay, by sheer luck. It'll come down to them in Minnesota, and right now, I don't know who's worse. Tennessee went into San Diego and lost. It was a barn burner. San Diego putting up 43 points against the Tennessee Titans. It was enough. San Diego wins. And then, of course, the game of the week. The Denver Broncos going into the Oakland Raiders, into the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The Oakland Raiders put on a dominating performance. They had all phases of football going for them, and they beat the Denver Broncos 30-20 to take the number one spot in the AFC West. Wow. The Buffalo Bills went into Seattle and lost, and that wrapped up the Week 9 that was. We are now on to Week 10, as we said. Baltimore kicked things off, and now we're looking at the next things. And again, we get back to Green Bay. They're going into Tennessee. Green Bay's favored by 2.5, but you don't know what you're going to get out of Green Bay. You have to think they're going to win this game because they are the better team, but who knows? Maybe Tennessee will give them something to fight for. The Denver Broncos are going into New Orleans, and New Orleans is favored by 3 points. Very interesting spread on this game. I don't know what to say other than people have already lost faith in the Broncos, even though they're still 6-3. The Los Angeles Rams going into the New York Jets. The Jets are favored by 2 points. Take the under in this game. I don't even know what the total is, but I'm sure no one's going to score more than 3 points. The Atlanta Falcons are going into Philadelphia for a very interesting game. The Atlanta Falcons are favored by 2. We'll see if they can pull it out. You'd like to think they can. You'd like to think Philadelphia is going to come back. If they lose, they will be 4-5. It's a must-win game for Philadelphia. They're going to give it all they got. Chicago going into Tampa Bay. Good God. Minnesota at Washington. Washington's favored by 2.5. It's a big game for Washington. I like them to cover there. Who is this? The Kansas City Chiefs? Yes, they are traveling into the Carolina Panthers. Carolina's favored by 3 points. I like the Chiefs in this one. I think Carolina's all over the place this year. Something about the Chiefs. They're firing on all cylinders right now. That's what Andy Reid can do. He'll get you to the playoffs and then lose. The Houston Texans are going into Jacksonville for another ugly game. Jacksonville, even though they're 2-6, are favored by 2 points because everyone who knows anything knows that Houston can't travel and will probably lose this game. The Miami Dolphins will face the San Diego Chargers in an old-school battle. At least that's how it seems. They'll be in San Diego. SD favored by 4. I like a lot of points in this one because I think both teams have a lot to shoot for, and they both seem to like to score. We'll see how it goes. The Santa Clara Yorks are at the Arizona Cardinals, and I thought this line would open up at 13, and it did, and it's already moved to 13.5. Of course, the Santa Clara Yorks are getting the 13.5 because they are terrible. I do think Arizona is not very good either. It's a must-win game for them. They really have to beat up on the Yorks here. I guess you got to say they're going to cover the 14 because the Yorks they've covered twice all season. It's just awful. The Dallas Cowboys going into Pittsburgh. This should be a good one. Pittsburgh really needs to win this game. Dallas, of course, really doesn't need to win this game. Pittsburgh's favored by 2.5, and I like to take them there. I think they can do it. It might be a little closer than that. Who knows? Dallas is very, very good and playing with house money, like we've said before, for the first time since '92. Seattle at New England. New England favored by 7.5. That's a game to watch. I like New England because they're going to beat up on everybody as they continue to do so. Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Giants. That's an even. That's a pick 'em. Pick the Giants. Because when you have a chance to bet against the Bengals, you always do. Not much else to say, everybody. Everyone's attention was in other places this week, and rightly so, as the country changed hands peacefully, and we must all celebrate that, of course, regardless of whose side you might be on. That's it. We'll see you next week.